Hello everyone, welcome to my Vengeful Spirit guide. I've been thinking about doing this for a couple of years now. Not very high rank, but Venge is definitely one of my most played heroes. She also has a decent win rate, for someone who I spam. Obviously between the now and the last 10 years, she's gone through numerous changes, and I honestly prefer the way she was a couple of years ago when Ags was more or less a passive, and then they updated it, and now she's still really good, especially this patch, but she's kind of been out of the meta for a couple of years. So I guess now's the time to be making the guide because she's just viable all of a sudden. I mean, you're even seeing her in pro games and Dota 2 Pro Tracker. She's one of the most played. So starting off, I always love to go for Magic Missile because I mean just any stun in Dota is generally going to make you have a better lane, a better game, especially when you have those teams who just don't think about these things. The Wave of Terror was mainly because I enjoyed her more or less as a 4, which means you get more farm, and upgrading a Vengeance or a second also means that combined Wave of Terror and Vengeful Aura, both level 4, around level 9 or 10, she can last it, she can help kill hitters, she can steal creeps with the Wave of Terror, she hits you really hard for a hero with only support items. The exception here is that once you get all these items, Ags is pretty much staple for me. It's like the build doesn't work without it. She becomes half the hero in my opinion. Obviously there are games where you can have all the core items and still feel pretty mediocre. It's very rare. It's like the whole enemy team has to focus you and kill you twice, because generally this only really happens if you're swapping people, killing them, and then they realize, oh shit, they have to start killing you, and then they start killing you, but you have Ags, which means even when they try, you have a second life, which gives you and your whole team the advantage, because if they focus you, it kind of makes space, it allows your team to counter jump. Obviously this depends heavily, especially in pubs, because I don't often have teammates who think about these things. So when it comes to starting items, I really like Windlace. It doesn't have to be Magic Stick, but these two items are really good for most supports in the game, and at level 1 this allows you to stay alive longer, especially if there's two heroes jumping on you, because generally as a 5 or a 4 there are heroes that literally just, like, your carry or offlaner will not give a shit, and lately there's a lot of PAs in the games who are actually blinking onto the enemy pos 4 and 5s and 2v1ing you. Infused raindrops is just a must because you need the mana, and the magic resistance is actually what's key with that. Tranquil boots is just because the new upgrade for drums of endurance into the new boots is just so good. I mean, just being able to spam this in team fights makes a big difference. I love going shard straight after the Ags. I need to change this to normal Ags. Just because double stun, I mean, there's like a handful of heroes who have more than one stun, which increases its value. Vlad's for me is just the given with Ags because you get so much more value out of it when you are dead. Vlad is like one of the only items that still provides its buff to you and your allies. You could say drums are the same, but other than that, it's just general support items, to be honest, because it takes a while to get to this point, and that's if you even get there, unless the game is ending in like the first 30 minutes. This build used to originally be Guardian Greaves instead of Boots of Bedding, but that was before they changed passive to Ags. Solar Crest is just so good right now on most support heroes. I mean, even Nature's Prophet buys this item, and combine this with your Wave of Terror, which also reduces damage and armor and attack damage. I mean, it also allows you to see up hills, especially if you just have a sentry. You don't need to buy wards with Wave of Terror. I mean, of course you want wards on the map, but I'm just, you know, saying for those moments when you're basically having a ward battle with the enemy team or enemy support. And then there's just these general items which could be useful in any given game. I'd say most of these is situational. If you go Mana Boots, you can get the Lotus Orb by just disassembling it. And I mean, I just feel like aura items are really strong on her because she has 2 lives. Obviously the clickable ones are less so. Assault Cuirass just gives you more value, and I suppose the general support items which you can still use on teammates. And this is basically, I want to grief my team, or my team is griefing me, and I'm just way more farmed, I'm getting way more kills, I'm doing more in the game than they are. Or I'm playing a core position, I guess. Neutral items is just Philosopher's Stone. If you can get this item, unless you're farming really well and you're like 5-0, I wouldn't recommend the other items, because this just allows you to not grief your team, not steal their farm, and be able to afford wards at the same time, because getting Ags can be rough in some games where you're not doing too well. But yeah, that's about it. She's one of my best heroes. She has multiple viable builds, by that being, I mean, you could go Magic Missile, Max first instead of Wave of Terror. But either way, I don't really think you could go wrong by maxing either one of these two, you know, in terms of talents. Let me just see if I can check this myself. I have to admit that once you get Ags, you can pretty much be an offlaner, especially in those games when you have someone picking like Nature's Prophet offlane or Ninja or DB. Generally, you're still gonna need someone to initiate in those games, and a lot of them tend to be harder than they should be. And once you get Ags, you can literally just start playing like the offlaner, even with the basic core items. Yeah, this would give you enough to survive, to actually team fight from an early level, to initiate, to basically just offlane. And of course, items that give you agility or attack range, attack speed, even a trickster cloak, because to keep you alive before you use your second life. You have to know that all active items are only useful before you die, the first time at least. So the more passive items you get, the better, which is why Tranquil isn't that good until you have Drums of Endurance or the upgrade, because then you still get the passive, which is an aura. And that's kind of most of the build, to be honest. It's just being a team player who also initiates, who can save. I prefer to do this once I have As, because otherwise I'm just wasting money. And let me just fix this quickly. You could get the Ag's blessing, to be honest, but I just don't feel like you really, as a support anyway, or boss 4, boss 5, you're not really gonna get to a stage where you're fully 6 slotted and you can actually use the Ag's blessing. So I wouldn't recommend that. I will share the link to this guide in the description. It will obviously be on my profile. And in terms of what talents, the one thing I kind of didn't mention yet is you always want to go magic missile. Even if you have level 1 magic missile, the cast range just means you can stand further away and still be useful. And you know, allies won't flame you for this build just because at the end of the day, once you get Ags plus Shard and you max this out by level 16 with this and this, I mean, cast range plus damage, it's a lot of fucking damage, and you can basically cast the spell all the time. It will get you kills, but that's not really the point. It's just to have a stun that you can spam. I mean, if you really want to, the Nether Swap is a viable choice. Even the minus armor. I mean, I never really use this because I'm not really using it to, you know, I mean, there are times when you can 1v1 supports, and that's like the only time I'd really consider it. And I mean, if you're going for the swap talent, you might as well get the cooldown on it, but otherwise I'm just maxing out the stun as much as I can. With Ags and Shard, your stun just gets more and more value. And I'd say that especially the Wave of Terror, it's mainly good as a core, because even though you're hitting hard with your order maxed out and Wave of Terror, if you actually follow this guy directly, it's just not as much value as you get out of stunning 2 people twice, you know, with cooldown reduction, cast range. It's just more value. And I kind of left this one blank because I feel like generally in most of my games I've been going for the 16% order, but I can see how this would be useful, you know, especially in those games where you're like 0-9, you have Ags, and you don't really care at this point. You're just trying to, you know, play with your team, save them, keep them alive, because ultimately if you're a guardian like me, people are just throwing all the time, and a lot of the time you can't even blame them because they're not realizing, okay, there's a sniper who's like 10-0. They're just running into the rest of the team trying to kill the offlaner or the tank when there's a sniper at the back, and that was literally one of my games I had last night. I can show
Vengeance flies beside me.
My stats. It's so confusing when they change all of this shit, to be honest. So as you can see, I've been pretty much spamming her this year at least. It wasn't going too well up until around the latest patch, I think. There was specifically one where they started buffing her. Yes, the universal change. That was the start of her becoming viable, basically. And a lot of other heroes, to be honest, that just buy all these stat items and get damage from it, which is why all of those support items or the core items I buy for her just naturally makes her a stronger hero. She can hit like a truck with literally support items that just give her stats. And when you think about it, it's kind of funny because there are so many heroes out there as a support who hit like a pussy. And I can guarantee you with Wave of Terror plus Vengeance Order maxed out, you can pretty much deal core heroes in the beginning of the game. You are stronger than them with enough levels. and just enough items. But yeah, that's my Venge guide. I guess I could show some actual gameplay for it before I call it a video. I hope you've enjoyed the video. This is pretty much the first one I've done on YouTube with just recording it, because most of the time I just prefer streaming. So anyways, hope you've enjoyed it, hope this helps and helps you win games, because I mean it's definitely been helping me. And it's taken a while for Venge to actually be viable again.